The usual answer to that question is what I call the trustee's shuffle, which is the trustee moving back and saying, give what you can. Instead of that, if you have some standard of giving, you can say, at our church, we as a congregation have agreed that we hope people who are able will aspire to give $20 a week. You need to decide if you're in a place where you can do that. We don't plan to change that number for 3 years, but what we would like you to consider is $20 a week. That's the answer to that question. When you hear the words, we'd like you to consider. That's the key here. It's not give us $1,000. It's would you consider giving at that level? That's what we're all committed to. And that sounds to me a lot like what they say at the preschool where I drop my kids off, except they drop the would you consider. But they're fairly clear about what the expectations are in the situation. The whole question of the ask is one where we lose a great deal of ground because the key to the canvas is asking for the money. And if we can't be specific about it, then we are going to be less successful. Anything we can do to empower our canvassers to ask for a specific amount of money is a plus. And if we don't have a dollar amount, something like what Janet is talking about or something like a weekly standard is a tool. But these are techniques, tools. In some churches, the idea of setting up a weekly standard would be an anathema. I mean, people would be tarred and feathered if you suggested something like this. So then you need to go in a different direction. But you can do this gradually. One of the first things you can do in your church is to introduce the idea that there is some standard of giving. And the baby step for the church that maybe just this year only has the time to come up with maybe a little dream that'll cost a few $1,000s. The baby step in a standard of giving is to say to people, we're going to try and do this extra wonderful thing this year, and we'd like you to consider giving us X more, $25 more, $50 more, so that we can do that. Because that introduces for the first time a real concrete solid standard of giving. And it is different in quality from the standard of giving that exists in the chart, which says, gosh, we hope you'll give us 5% of your income, when it's a fact that Unitarian Universalists give 0.9% of their income overall. This is something that's much more tangible. But introducing some standard of giving into the process gradually, I think is a real key in the whole ask formula. The decision about who anyone should canvass is based on who the best person is to do it. There are categories which seem to make sense for the minister to be part of the canvassing team. These are people who may, because of their, they may be very active, high-powered business folk or professional folk who have limited amounts of time, and therefore they know limited number of people in the congregation, but they do know who the minister is. Often those people are best approached by the minister along with someone else. I, by the way, would never send the minister alone on any canvass call. I think that would be inappropriate. But the minister might go well to those kinds of people for whom he's identifiable. The minister might go to older people who are either shut in or have limited ability to get out and to the church, who may or may not be wealthy, but for the same reasons, except it isn't lack of time, it's lack of mobility, they are less present in the life of the church. And the minister, along with someone else, could very easily make those calls, though on those calls, I would suggest that the minister not ask for the money, but be present when someone else asks for the money. In cultures in some of our churches, particularly in New England, where visitation is still part of the minister's job, which it is not in many other parts of the country, then the definition of where the minister goes and with whom on this could be broader in New England than it might be in Atlanta, where the senior minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta has probably not visited someone in their home in 10 years. The hospital maybe. So you have to factor all those different things into it as you figure it out. Okay, I've tried to point out to you that there is vision at the outset that you need to work on, and you can do that incrementally and in small pieces. There's organization, which is centered around the trustees, uses people outside, and uses ad hoc groups to deal with the specific functions of the canvas. And I've tried to emphasize to you that the center of the canvas is asking for the money and finding the most effective ways to ask for the money. And the most effective ways, as we've discussed, are being as specific as possible as you move through this. Finally, I've suggested to you that the canvas should run on a short time span. The full-blown canvas, including a direct mail campaign, is an 8-week effort. The diminishing returns for expanding it beyond that are so great that it's not worth the time and effort to do it. And finally, I've tried to emphasize to you that flexibility and adaptation to your particular situation, building on your successes, is the absolute key to moving forward, because none of us can do all of this at once. Just take some baby steps and things will get better. Thank you very much.
The Ballou Channing District hopes you have found this video helpful. If you need further information, you may wish to contact the UUA or Terry Sweetser. The UUA may be reached 617-742-2100 and on the internet at www.uua.org. Terry may be reached by email at tsweetser@uua.org. We wish to thank all the people who helped produce this video: Richard Hill, Claudia Mongan, Dan Riley, Charles Tarbox, and the presenter, Terry Sweetser.